Call to order the Finance Committee meeting for July the 18th, 2017. Item number 1, please.
Consider approval of Finance Committee minutes of July the 5th, 2017.
After reviewing of the minutes, are there any corrections or additions?
Move the approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 1 passed. Item number 2, please.
Consider approval of claims for all city departments June 28, 2017 through July 12, 2017.
Do we have a report from the Purchasing Committee?
Yes, sir. The purchasing committee met earlier today and reviewed the report of claims with the city treasurer, and I move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 2 passed. Item number 3, please.
Consider approval of an amendment to the agreement with Sports Facilities Management to operate Love Hatbox Sports Complex, reducing management fees, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, members of the committee, this is a relatively simple item that we have negotiated their fee, SFM's fee, downward for management of the sports complex. It changes no other terms. It does not extend the contract or change anything else. It basically gives us more for our money. And so we recommend approval for the amendment, given that it is a cost savings to the city.
So all we're doing is lowering the fee?
Yes.
And are they going to give us a report or something here pretty soon? If they've already given it and I wasn't here and I missed it, I'd like to hear another one.
That can be arranged.
Before next Monday, before we vote on this? Because I think I've been out there a few times and there's some things that are happening that are really nice. And there's other things that I'm still not understanding why in the world we do them the way we're doing them out there. Like canceling tournaments on sunny days and stuff like that. I'd just like to find out. I mean, and I understand that there's certain things going on out there I'd like to have some answers for, and I'd rather do that.
Certainly.
Be able to ask those questions.
I'll send their most recent written report to the council, certainly between now and then.
Look at it.
Any other discussion?
When is the contract actually up for renewal?
I believe they had a 5-year contract and we're in the 3rd year.
Okay.
Starting year 3.
Yes.
Tammy, did I have a motion?
Nope. Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Do we have someone that wanted to speak?
Oh, I'm sorry. We sure do. I'm sorry. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. We do have one that have signed up to speak on this item. Ms. Sheila Ripley. You have 3 minutes, and if you could, please tell us your name and address.
My name is Sheila Rippey. My address is 4200 South 24th Place West in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and I'm with the Green Country Girls Softball. And we're talking about all the money that's being spent out at SFM, and they promised us change. They promised us turnaround out there. And if anything, things have just gotten worse. We're getting lots and lots of games canceled, our league games. The tournaments are getting canceled. I really don't have a whole lot to do with that, but the tournaments are getting canceled. My goddaughter plays softball. I had to work the fields myself. One day, you look around, there's nobody out there working the fields. There's the person that does work the fields, he's just a Bacone College student. He doesn't know a whole lot about softball. To work in a softball field, not anybody can just get up there and go work it. It does take a little bit of skill. I think he needs a little bit of training so we can get that field turned over instead of waiting until 11 o'clock in the afternoon for a 3 o'clock deadline that we give our parents to say yes or no, we're not going to play. We give the city, we give SFM till 3 o'clock in the afternoon to say, yeah, the fields are ready and we can play. But trust me, our people are out there driving those parking lots at 10 o'clock in the morning, and there's nobody out there working those fields. And they're reporting to us saying, there's nobody out there working. What are we paying them for? It's a good question. What are we paying them for? They're not out there working the fields, but they're going to cancel our games later in the day. The bathrooms are nasty. They stink. I don't know why somebody can't go in there and throw some bleach on the floor. They're hot. They're sticky. as a female, when you go in there, it's so hard to do, battling with your clothes because it's so hot and stinky in there. You want to hurry up and get out of there as fast as you can. There's no reason why those bathrooms can't be cleaned. Toilet paper changed out. Just the mess on the walls and everything. The fields themselves are really, really bad. As a coach, if you have an option to go play in Tulsa or you come to Muskogee at Hatbox and play, there's a 20% chance of rain for the weekend. I promise you, you're going to take your field, your kids, to Tulsa to play because the chances of you getting canceled are far less in Tulsa than they are at Muskogee. We want to try to bring people in, and if there's no improvement to our fields, people aren't going to come here. They're going to look at that weather forecast and they're going to say, there's a small chance of rain. The chances of us getting canceled and not getting to play are greater than if we go to Tulsa. So they're going to take their money to Tulsa and spend it there instead of spending it here. They are having a few tournaments. Softball, they've battled a lot of the weather this year, so they've had to cancel a lot of them. But if you get somebody that knows how to work those fields, you can get those fields turned around instead of waiting all day on a bright, sunny Saturday for them to dry out. You have to turn them over, you have to baby them a little bit, but nobody's out there working them, so that these people don't know how to do the fields. You need somebody out there to do them, and SFM is not hiring somebody to get out there and work on the fields that knows what they're doing. The eyesore out there. When I go to a ballpark to play ball, I look at the ballpark and I say, oh, this is a really nice facility. There's shades, there's this, there's that. Our facility is lacking a whole bunch, and that is going to come with time, and we can build that up with time. But they don't even keep the grass, and this is a city problem, not the SFM problem. The grass outside the ball fields themselves is what got up to our knees this year. There's no reason for that. When you walk into a ball field, you should not have to trample through grass. When they finally did mow it, you could have got a good bale of hay out of that stuff. We've got to work together. SFM, I have no issue with the new guy that's out there running it, but the money's not getting spent the way it needs to be spent and put back there in that park to make it pleasant for the eye to look at, for people just to even give it a chance for them to come up and play ball in our park. If we're not having these tournaments if people are going to different places, you're wasting your money. Why can't we could pay somebody local, somebody who's just as well qualified, even Thomas would be qualified, the guy that's out there currently running it, somebody to run the fields that can spend the money wisely on the ballpark instead of not trying to make it better to bring people in. The money isn't getting spent right to bring people in, is what I'm just trying to say. They're not taking care of business. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
And those are some of the things that I was discussing, is that I've been out there when they were trying to play ball and the grass was high. And I think that's our fault, isn't it? I don't know. I think that's something that we're supposed to be taking care of, and we're not doing it. Is our budget so tight that we can't take care of our parks and our grass?
Well, as you're aware, a lot of our facilities this spring, when it rained pretty continuously, we got behind. We got behind on mowing on quite a few of our areas, and so I think maybe we didn't get to every park as quickly as we would like to during the rainy season this year. I'll grant you that.
My issue about that is that these are the things that we're trying to improve our city. Other cities are able to mow their parks and stuff after it rains. If you got a X-Mart, zero turn radius, those mowers that are high RPMs, they're made to cut somewhat wet grass. I don't buy the excuse that time. Sorry. We got to do something better. If we're going to say we're open for business in Muskogee, we have to take care of stuff like that, the little stuff. I'm sorry.
And I don't think, Councilor Hall, you owe very many apologies. I think that as we get ready to go into the future years for that contract, it's probably time to do some detailed overview of how the city and SFM are working or not working hand in hand, to be certain that we bring the residents something that they need. And so I'd also be interested in seeing what we need to do, Mr. Manager, to be certain that we can review where we are with the contract and determine if going forward is in our best interest, even if we have to risk a breach.
Any further discussion?
So, yeah,
Yes,
I just want to point out that in this case, with the management issues aside, we are getting a lower management fee, which I think is a good thing overall for the city.
And if I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong, but lowering the management fee will actually put more investment into the park.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we're not, the budget was figured with this amount.
Yeah, so lowering that management fee will put more investment back into the park. So that's where we want it to go.
Okay, lowering the management fee, putting more money in the park. Now, who's got oversight of that? Who is looking at who does what they're doing out there? We can put as much money in the park as we want to, but if we don't have someone making sure that it's being done, we're still going to have knee-high grass and curbs that aren't edged and bathrooms that stink.
We're meeting with
but
we're meeting with SFM tomorrow. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
6 years, 5 years I've been on this city council. 5 years, that's been a major complaint. We thought getting SFM in here would take care of that. I don't see us making any strides to get that taken care of. So we've got to do something change. We can't keep kicking the can down the road and saying, oh, it's going to look better tomorrow because they're lowering their management fees. I want to know what we're going to do to make sure this doesn't happen next year. And I'm not trying to sound hateful or anything. I just want something done. I'm tired of getting phone calls telling me that the bathrooms stink, grass is high, fields aren't worked on. I go out there, and they're right. When are we going to – that's what we got elected up here for. We're elected up here to make sure that somebody is held accountable for making sure the grass is mowed in this city, the water lines are made, everything's done, our streets look nice. Other than a few buildings that we've had built out on Shawnee, I'm not feeling like, I guess it's just me today, I'm not feeling like we're really making a big progress here. And I would like to start seeing things turn around. I want people held accountable from this day forward on this stuff. If they can't do it, then they need to leave. This is our city. We got to make it better. We got to make it cleaner. And I'm just tired of us getting second-handed stuff and going, well, it's Muskogee. It is Muskogee, and we should be proud of our town. I'm done.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
No.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 3 passed. Item number 4, please.
Consider approval to accept the proposal from Ron Drake Consulting for downtown revitalization, and if necessary, direct the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement for the same or take other necessary action.
Mayor Coburn.
Ron Drake has done consulting work for us for downtown and has done a good job, has moved many projects ahead that we were working on, and so I'd like to entertain the motion, entertain the discussion about his contract and where we should go in terms of the possibility of extending it.
Before we go into any council discussion, I do have 3 people who have signed up to speak on this item. I will recognize them at this time. There's Alex Ketchich, I'm sorry. You call, yes. You have 5 minutes to speak on this item. If you could, please state your name and address.
Yeah, Lex Kadich, 2225 Robin Lane, here in Muskogee. I'm still relatively a new resident to Muskogee, 4 years now. I consider that relatively new compared to some people, right? They've been here forever. In the past 4 years, my family and some friends have invested in the community, created businesses with good jobs, and purchased some buildings downtown with the hopes to develop and create something better for residents and everybody to enjoy, right? So specifically, we invested in the downtown based on a lot of discussions and things through the various steering committees and DMI, which is now Main Street, and some other discussions that we saw. We wanted to jump on board and do something. We saw some buildings that were just sitting vacant, collecting dust and falling apart, some even falling down. And so the first 3 years after we kind of started investing, we didn't see a whole lot going on. And in the past year, it seems like there's just been kind of a surgent of activity, whether it be businesses, coming to downtown, whether it be money being, you know, allocated from the city or whatever. And my opinion, based on my personal dealings with Ron Drake Consulting, is that he has a huge part in that. And I can only speak for myself, but he has spent numerous hours with my partners and I to figure out, you know, penciling the numbers out. Does it create a return on investment? It's not just about the return on investment, but without a return, there is no investment. So I feel like it was important for me to come and speak, because without Ron, we wouldn't even be as far as we are. I mean, we've got $12,000 invested in one project right now, just in renderings, to figure out if it even makes sense. Loft Apartments. That's a big building over here, the P&H Supply. I'll be honest, without Ron Drake's guidance, that project doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know anything about Loft Apartments. With retail below, my partners don't. They've, you know, it's just one of those things that if it's not Ron, who is it? And I feel like in the last 4 years, the first 3 was a lot of talk, a lot of hope, a lot of things, and then, you know, Ron came into the community, and I feel personally like he's done a great job getting us, meaning myself and my partners and my wife and I, to a great point where we feel good about our investments and feel good about investing more and moving forward. You know, I look around the room and I see other, I mean, just show of hands, how many people here are actually downtown investors or own buildings that are interested in these things? So, I mean, I know I signed up to speak, but I mean, I think the room's kind of full of some of those people, and there's some people that aren't even here. So, just, you know, I felt like it was important for you guys to hear this. You know, when you're in the trenches working with somebody, you know, it's a little different than if you're just hearing or reading it on Facebook or through hearsay or through whatever. So my personal experience has been great. I'm looking forward to another year of getting the project done. It's going to take about that, especially the one project. I mean, we're looking at 1.2 to 1.6 million. That's a lot of money to sign on the dotted line. And I'll be honest again, without a guy like Ron Drake guiding that project, it's not going to happen. I just don't have the knowledge myself to do it. I've got the energy and I got the desire, but again, it takes a team of people, and I feel like personally, Ron's a big part of that team for us, which would obviously be a part of the team for the city. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Just thank you for your time.
We have a Megan Farnell. Farron, I'm gonna get there. Okay, are you Vicky?
I'm Vicky.
Okay. You guys have 5 minutes, and if you could please give us your name and address, please.
My name is Megan Farron, and our address is 200A South Main Street, Muskogee, Oklahoma.
I'll be real honest with you. When I first heard last year that they were bringing a consultant to town, I'm thinking, okay, somebody we don't know, they don't know us, they don't share our passions. I thought that was crazy and a waste of money, and did for a long time. Until Megan and I started the process of our dreams and something fun we're doing downtown, which we opened today. And even the first few times Ron came over to visit with Megan, because she had already met him, I was kind of quiet and sat back and listened. Once I got to know him and what he was here for and what he was doing, I understood. And he, like he said, we'd already started our dream. We'd already started our project. We'd already started this. And we were going to do it. But somewhere along the way, he put a fire under me and the passion to get involved with the city and do things I haven't been able to do in a while. And it's a very emotional thing. And like I said, today we opened.
We're a little emotional today.
It was a big day. But I'm just here, if the money's there, I think he needs to stay. And he needs to see a lot. I mean, he's laid the ground rules for the past year. Let him stay and help bring it to life. Even in the past 2 months. I mean, I feel like I've made a great friend, and he's supportive. He calls, he texts, checks on you, stop by. And when he's talking to me, I feel like I'm the only person in the world and I really matter. And my opinions matter and my hopes and dreams matter. And I think he's helping other people fulfill that. And I just say if the money's there, let's keep him. Go for it.
You said it all. I don't really know what else to say.
Anyway, you got something.
I originally met with Ron almost a year ago, and I was looking for a retail space. I have a flower shop, and it was actually a project that we started talking about buildings and different things, and then we started talking to Lex about a retail space with the building he's speaking about. And then something came along with Vicki and I went to him and I said, okay, plans changed. The other plan is going on, but now we're going to do this. And since that very day, I mean, even before that, when we were talking with Lex, he was just right there with me. What can I do to help? You know, giving us ideas and going over everything and just listening and being there for me. And then, you know, then when Vicki and I got on with this project, it was just from that day forward. I mean, he stops at our shop probably 2 to 3 times a week and spends, sometimes it's 15 minutes. Hey, I'm popping in. I've got 15 minutes to spare. I'm going to come see you guys. Or sometimes it's an hour, you know, and just anything he can do to help us. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, without him, I wouldn't have known about any of the grants available for our small business. I mean, and without those grants, the things that we were able to do for our building would not be possible. I mean, just flat out wouldn't have happened. I just feel like every time he comes to see us, he's just so encouraging, offers his ideas, but he also steps back and like listens to your passion and your dreams and the way that you want all of, you know, your shop to turn out. And even if it wasn't his idea, he listens to yours and meets in the middle and, oh, that's a better idea. And then, you know, we're bouncing ideas off of each other, texting pictures and what do you think about this? And can you come check this out? I really think I got myself into a mess. And, you know, he comes and looks at it. And I just, you know, we've made friends with him. And do I get 5 extra minutes because we shared our time? I did a wedding in Arkansas about a month ago, and I was driving back by Siloam Springs, and I drove by and all downtown and had the opportunity to see everything that he's done for his city, and it was just amazing. I mean, by far, their downtown has ours beat by a landslide, and what's your population in Siloam Springs? 15,000. And we have a population of almost 40,000. I mean, that's crazy. I shouldn't be sitting here saying that his downtown beats ours by a landslide, but it's amazing to me because you are able to see that passion and that love and care that he puts into his community. And to have that opportunity for him to put that into our community is fantastic to me. I was born and raised here, and I love this city. And I could easily, with my business, I even talked to Ron about this. You know, I could easily be in Broken Arrow or Tulsa, but I want to be here and I want to create value here. And I just think that, you know, without his guidance, for a lot of us that are just starting out, don't know what we're doing, you know, kind of have this passion and drive, but just don't know. He's amazing for us to have that. And, you know, I can't say enough nice things about him. He's not just, you know, the consultant with the city anymore. He's our friend. And I think it would be just such a missed opportunity for our city if his contract wasn't renewed. So, okay.
Okay, that covers everyone that has signed up to speak, so now we're open for council discussion.
I would like to hear how the possibility of extending this for 6 months would be paid for. Mr. Miller, can you
Yes, and
speak to that issue?
you'd asked me, and I'm glad several of the council members have asked because we went through a very rigorous budget process this year, and we had a very tight budget year, and so this was not in our annual budget, and so when we drafted the budget a couple of months ago, we had to make some estimates. Some of those things are no longer estimates; they're known facts, and one of those is interest that we're paying to the City of Muskogee Foundation on some loans for economic development projects. We've got the actual amounts that those will be, and those will be about $35,000 to $40,000 less than we budgeted. So we have extra money in our economic development fund, which is a restricted fund. We can only use it for economic development purposes. And so Mr. Drake his contract was paid out of economic development this past fiscal year. In this current year, his contract runs through the end of this month, and so that's the appropriate place to pay for this. I think downtown is a high priority project for the city, so if this was a contract extension that the council wanted to do, I think the appropriate place to do would be to pay it for it out of those economic development funds.
It was surprising when it showed up on the agenda because we really didn't have time to discuss it during the budget process, but the budget process was really tight because we were on a tight budget. I would like to have time for some of the council that are concerned about, my passion is downtown Muskogee. And I want what's best for downtown Muskogee and us moving forward. But I would like to see what council is interested in us to sit down with Gary Garvin and the manager and see how we can move forward for a short-term plan and a long-term plan of moving our community forward because we have a great opportunity with the foundation right now and the incentives that we've been working on for quite some time, and now they've come to fruition. I would like to make a motion that we extend his contract for 1 month and that we then have a select group of council who would want to be involved in a meeting with Gary Garvin, city manager, and discuss a short-term and long-term plan and how we move forward. And then bring it back to Public Works again.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I will say that Vicky did open today, and it was outstanding. And I almost ate twice if it were not for the fact that I knew that Dan Hall was coming behind me.
That was nice of you.
So I saved him a sandwich.
So the motion is for one
I
month
have no idea what
extension.
you're talking about.
You missed it.
Mr. Tucker, did I understand that right?
Yes, that was the motion.
And if we vote no on that, then we can come back and approve the 6-month extension?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because if you vote no, then that'll put it on regular agenda and it'll be rediscussed on Monday night.
So my idea of voting, of extending it for 1 month, we would have no discontinue of services, but it would give us enough time to get together and look at a short, and what I mean by short-term plan, if we're talking about 6 months extension, we're talking about just those in cycle right now, but really we need to get together with Main Street, Muskogee. We need to get together with Gary Garvin, and we need to get together with Mike Miller and talk about where we're going on the future of downtown and put together a team of how is it all going to function in the future. 6 months is not going to get us by planning a dream for our downtown.
I don't personally think that 1 month is going to get us very far toward realizing what that potential might be. And I just think that we're procrastinating for a month on something that ultimately needs to be done anyway. And I think evidenced by the number of people that are sitting here, there's a significant interest in the potential of this moving ahead. And so I would have a difficult time supporting that idea of a 1 month, because I think ultimately all we're going to do is wait and make the same decision a month from now that we're going to make now, with a little other conversation to take place. I think some lunches could take place in terms of communication between now and Monday night, and there become enough understanding to move forward with a 6-month extension of it. And I think that gives Mr. Drake the opportunity to know where we're headed. It gives time for some other input from council, some other understanding, and that'd be my preference in lieu of a one month extension.
When I have a question, because I haven't got to look at very much on this, and I've had a lot of phone calls today for and against. And basically all I need is, I would like to see some of the projects. I'd like to have a list of projects that he's helped on, and to see if our money's well spent. That's what I'm after. I don't have a preference whether he stays or goes right now because I don't have enough, I'm not educated enough on what he's doing enough to vote yes or no right now. And I'm sure that's something that can be accomplished between today and Monday. I would just like to have a list of projects that he's been involved in, what we've done, how far we've pushed forward, and I think that's the best way for me to vote. Right now, I can't give you an educated yes on this or educated no on this because I really don't have a lot of information about Mr. Drake other than what I heard today. I would love to have more information on this before Monday night.
Well, I imagine a lot of things he's working on is confidential. I know
I'll keep it quiet.
if I was doing it, I wouldn't want it talked about up here.
Yeah, I'm happy to share what he's done with us. Anytime. I got 3 projects where we've probably already spent 22.
Okay. And
I was thinking in executive session, we got a list of the potential projects
ago?
about a month ago.
Yeah,
We
we
sure
did.
did. And I was really impressed with those projects that we had in executive session. I mean, I recall that, and that's kind of why I think we need to press forward
that may have
the
been one.
foundation.
I'm sorry, Councilman. That may have been one of those 2 that I missed over the last month.
Time flies,
I think
but
that
I
report
could
be
give you
given
just
to
a
you
short
in
summary.
One email
Okay.
Want it?
Today.
I could give you just a short summary of the projects if you want it.
I think that might be interesting.
Okay. What you've heard from some of them tonight, some of them are just potential developments. If all the projects go through, there'll be 10 total projects, but it'll include 12 buildings, be a possibility of 61 loft apartments, 2 bars, 4 restaurants, and 12 retail spaces. Estimated cost of just under $6 million investment.
and some of that money's going to be incentivized through the City of Muskogee Foundation.
Yeah, most of
at
these projects are going to be
$750,000.
based on the grant, and the grant's going to put $1 million into it, so.
I mean, so when the people have been talked to, I mean, through Mr. Drake's efforts, so he's got a lot of interest. We now have some funding sitting on the table. I just think it's time to move forward. I think while the iron's hot, you're supposed to strike it. Isn't that what you're supposed to, however that phrase goes?
I
But
don't know what that means, but yes, I've heard that.
because for me, I wish we were doing it for a year, not just to 6 months, because I really see some exciting pieces. But, I'll take the recommendation of 6 months. I just think we just need to move forward. Every time I read, and I enjoy so much from the paper, I'm an Okie from Muskogee, and probably 3/4 of the people say we need to revitalize downtown. We got the players, and we have the financing. Now's the time. I don't think we need to delay. I think we've got plans. When you got $6 million worth of projects and 12 buildings, I just think any delay would really hurt the City of Muskogee's credibility in this council. And that's just my personal opinion. But
This motion is no delay. This motion is just where we can discuss it, which we've not had a point of being able to discuss it as a council. He would still be under contract, and we would just have the opportunity of discussing it and looking at budget. I will bring, this was not a budgeted item. This would allow us to better look at a budget process. This was discussed during the budget that this would not be a funded project. I think this is making it open to the council to have clear discussion of those that would be interested to discussing how we move forward in our downtown. So this is not stopping or delaying any process.
I just know if I was in Mr. Drake's shoes and only had a 1-month contract, I think I'd be looking for other opportunities if I had a consulting business. So I just think we need to give him a vote of confidence on all of his hard work that he's done since he's been in Muskogee. And I've only probably had 1 conversation with him, maybe 2, during this whole contract. But I have followed closely his work efforts. So, but if I'm in his shoes and I only had a 1-month contract, I think I'd be looking for something else. So that's where I'm going to have to stay on that part of it. But anyway.
Any further discussion? Roy, once again, can you clarify what our
Yes.
motion is, please?
The motion on the floor, which has been seconded, is to extend the contract with Ron Drake Consulting for a period of 1 month.
And the yes and no's and the impacts?
The yes will be to approve the motion to extend. The no's will be not to extend. If the motion passes, it will be, if it passes by less than unanimous vote, it'll be on regular agenda to discuss as the item is currently written. If the motion fails, another motion can be made and voted on until we get to a point where there is a consensus on how to move forward.
Today and not Monday night, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully,
No.
Janie Boydston,
No.
Patrick Kell,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
No.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
No.
Got four
Only
noes.
8 of us, that's 4 by 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So it fails.
4 and 4.
Motion fails.
I move that, and I assume that it now would be an appropriate time to do that. I move that we extend the contract for 6 months with Mr. Drake, and the funding would be the same funding source that we presently are using. And I make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully,
Yes.
Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kell,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
No.
Derek Reed,
No.
Dan Hall,
No.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, that item passed. Item number 5, please.
Consider approval of acceptance of City of Muskogee Foundation grants in the amount of $1,938,690.75 or take necessary action.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, this is good news. The grants that we've submitted, you see on your sheet, the downtown planning grant, the adult and juvenile offender community service program, and the CIC program run through Mr. Tucker's office. From Parks and Rec, the Teen Center, the Hangar redevelopments, and Civitan Park improvements, and our planning, housing and rehabilitation neighborhood revitalization grant, totaling nearly $2 million. And these grants you approved when we applied for them, and now we just need to accept the funding.
Let me think about that.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor James Scully,
Yes.
Janie Boydston,
Yes.
Patrick Kell,
Yes.
Marlon Coleman,
Yes.
Wayne Johnson,
Yes.
Derek Reed,
Yes.
Dan Hall,
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Item number 5 passed, and that is the final item for Finance Committee.
And so we'll now call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. Item number 1. You ready, Sam?
Consider approval of Public Works Committee minutes of July 5th, 2017.
Any additions or changes?
Move the approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kell.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 2.
Hold a public hearing and take action on the approval of a resolution 2702 for the adoption of the City of Muskogee Downtown Plan, a landscape of hope, or take any necessary action.
We're now in a public hearing. Mr. Garvin, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, first of all, we are recommending approval of the resolution. The resolution is to adopt the downtown plan. Just to give you a little bit of background, back in 2012, the City of Muskogee adopted the comprehensive plan land use map for the City of Muskogee. Within that plan, it recommends that we have a separate independent plan for downtown Muskogee. Therefore, last summer, with City Council approval, Planning Commission entered into, or Planning Department entered into a contract with the University of Oklahoma Urban Design Studio and the Institute for Quality Communities to create a downtown plan. The plan, entitled Downtown Muskogee, A Landscape of Hope, resulted from several months of obtaining information and input from Muskogee residents, downtown leaders, public officials, steering committee, public meetings, survey, and the survey included nearly over 400 residents. Additionally, a website was put together. That website was created to review documents throughout the process and to obtain additional input and information throughout the process. Through this process, there was 5 key priorities that emerged. They included increasing downtown activities, better connections, save historic buildings, introduce green spaces, and revitalize Arrowhead Mall. Now, before we go over the plan, I'd like to take just a second to thank the University of Oklahoma Planning Design Team. That team was led by Sean Schaefer, who is the director of the studio design, and Shane Hampton, who is the executive director of the Institute for Quality Communities. Sean was present at the Planning Commission meeting and gave the presentation. Shane is present tonight for this public hearing, and I think Sean will be back Monday night for the public hearing at City Council. Also want to thank the steering committee. It was chaired by Ren Stratton, co-chaired by Ann Ong. It started out with about 11 members of the community and downtown residents or owners and business owners. It grew to about 19 members in the process. They put in about 9 months worth of work, meeting monthly, reviewing the document, reviewing the plans, the analysis, everything that was presented. The Downtown Steering Committee and Planning Commission both recommended approval or adoption of the plan. This time I'd ask Sean to come up and give you a summary of the plan.
Okay. So you get Sean or Shane every time.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. So you just say one of our names, we'll probably both turn our heads anyway. So thank you for the opportunity to work here in Muskogee over the last 9 months. It's been a great pleasure to work in this town. I was just telling Gary after, I think it's been 2 months since we were last here. This is the longest time I've spent without coming over to Muskogee in a while. So I kind of autopiloted over here. But what I've noticed about the town, and it bore out in Dr. Hellman's study of hope through the survey that Gary mentioned that got over 400 responses to it, is that this is a hopeful community, that people are proud and ready to engage in their town. When I first got here, one of the first things we learned was about the AIM initiative that took place a few years back, right? And I was just so impressed hearing how many people the community got to turn out for those and to stay involved, and that turned out to continue to be true with all of our public engagement processes. I think in all we had about 25 trips with to Muskogee, with Sean's team coming here from Tulsa and mine coming from Norman. We had about 8 students engaged sort of really heavily with this project, and over the course of the 9 months we probably reached about 45 students from the College of Architecture and included them into the process to get their ideas. The survey with over 400 responses. The workshop was a highlight for me back in November. About 100 people in the MLK Center interacting with a 3D model that the students built of downtown Muskogee, sharing their ideas for the community. The mall competition, Arrowhead Mall is a huge site and a lot of possibilities for the future of that place. So we wanted to have a variety of responses to analyze what might be able to come of that parcel in the future. So we organized that as a competition with about 30 students participating and producing 4 different responses to how they might address the site. I'll share some of the best practices from that in a moment. So the 5 key items that we sort of boiled everything that we were hearing down to begin with increasing the amount of activity downtown. Within that category, we included the idea of attracting more residents, providing more residential options in the downtown by rehabbing buildings and providing both affordable housing but also market rate housing for people to live in. Attracting more visitors to downtown, more intensive programming coming out of the Main Street program as well. And also possibly through this grant program, the idea of incentivizing some new businesses and development to take place so that it's really important that sort of a critical mass is reached in a short amount of time with a downtown area, because businesses build off of each other's success. So hopefully through the grant program can encourage several of the projects Ron's working with to come online more closely to the same time, and they can build off of each other. Also attracting employers. Another amazing thing about downtown Muskogee is the amount of employment down here between the city and the federal government and everything else that's going on. The mall itself is a major employer as well. So encouraging more of that as well. We also put in a point about managing parking. most downtowns feel that they do have a shortage of parking. So you might look down the main street and see that every spot down the way is filled with cars, but usually there is more than ample supply of parking if you look at the district as a whole. In Muskogee, for example, we did a count, and only about 5% of the Arrowhead Mall's parking spaces were used. It has about 2,500 parking spaces. So usually we find it's not about a shortage of parking spaces, but how we're arranging where people park. So the folks that are parking for 8 hours, where are they parking? Are they parking in the most convenient spot on Broadway right in front of a retail business? Or are they parking a block or two off Main Street in a long-term parking lot that makes more sense to leave the car for the day? So maybe looking at some of the parking lots that are already existing downtown and seeing what rules are already in place on them would help relieve some of the parking constraints that people might perceive on a busier street like Broadway or Main. Sort of going along with that theme, another thing that's important if you want to have a downtown environment is that people can walk from wherever that parking spot is and access their favorite places. So we looked at improving connections throughout the downtown on foot. And since Muskogee has such a large downtown, maybe not every street can be addressed right away, but we identified sort of a loop or a series of streets and nodes that would be priorities for the city to focus on first. So targeting important streets for new projects. Increasing, especially the connectivity from north to south. It's pretty easy to go east-west through downtown, but there's some interesting jogs and things that happen on the grid as you're moving sort of north-south through the town. So we looked at some of those items as well. We looked at road diets, which are a common strategy for addressing downtown streets that once carried much more traffic than they did, or where moving traffic quickly used to be a high priority, and now slow traffic and business activity are more of a priority. So road diet might take a street from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes with a turn lane in the middle. Maybe to allow space for additional parking or for bike lanes, to widen sidewalks. So it's basically trading a little bit of capacity that we agree we don't need, and then using it for economic development purposes instead. Providing for pedestrians by maintaining the sidewalks better, providing safe crossings and benches and furniture, and also just beautiful streets are also important. So making those streets interesting to walk down is a really critical part of getting people interested in walking. Next point is about saving historic buildings in downtown Muskogee. Historic buildings are still one of the best assets that downtown Muskogee has to offer. Even though many have been lost through the years, there are still some very important buildings left to save. First task here is identifying the opportunity buildings in downtown Muskogee. So there's, sort of iconic large structures like the Muskogee Hotel that are obvious candidates that you would wish to save. But I think it's important also to look at the one-story commercial structures, the very simple buildings. Look at the Katy district and everything that's taken place there. Those little storefront buildings are major opportunity buildings because it takes just a little investment to get a small entrepreneur in and operating that space. So don't overlook those buildings as well, but it's important to find structures to save your major anchors like the Muskogee Hotel as well. Stabilizing buildings, maybe a building can't be fully redeveloped at this time, but can it be stabilized to prevent further deterioration? Sometimes these buildings have major ADA issues. New buildings require elevators and ramps, and when these buildings were built, they maybe didn't. So building owners may need help modernizing those services and meeting building codes. And also facades have been covered over the years by metal coverings, and so it's really common to kind of have the need to restore the quality of the facades to their original state. Students also looked at the importance of public spaces in downtown for activity to center around, and so they wanted to identify some places where new programmed public space could be added. I think the most important public space, in my opinion, in your downtown is the street itself. So think about those, but also the off-street places where there may be an opportunity like Hunts Green, which is the vacant lot next to the Surety building on Broadway Street, where something could take place very quickly. I know some events have already been programmed there, but just even if it's just a temporary public space, to slowly evolve that into something that attracts people to downtown. Students compared that space's potential to Guthrie Green in Tulsa, if anyone's ever been there. Sort of a highly programmed, active spot where everyone knows there's something going on. The Depot District Park, of course, is already coming as part of the Depot District's efforts. This idea of reclaiming some of the paved areas or looking at alternative pavement to help make sure that stormwater can drain more effectively in the downtown area. I think their final presentation was during a deluge, the students' final presentation that, kind of a hurricane. So I didn't even make it because I was stuck in Oklahoma City. But, stormwater runoff can be affected by paved areas. Paved areas can also create a heat island effect that makes it hot and sticky to be downtown. So, reducing or mitigating the effects of those areas with shade, with different types of paving materials can be important. And also we heard about a need to be careful with street trees or landscaping wherever it's placed so it doesn't block visibility to businesses. Last point is the revitalization of Arrowhead Mall. So like I said, we had 4 totally different designs worked on by the students, and we had a jury of Muskogee residents and experts from out of town to judge which is the best of those concepts. But we really thought that each of the 4 concepts from the students had something in it that was worth sharing and combining. So I think Sean's group put this together, and we called it the Frankenstein Mall concept, or the best of all, and put them all together. So some of the best ideas that we saw were to redevelop parking lots on the south edge of the Arrowhead Mall property so that the mall could actually meet downtown a little bit better rather than providing a sea of parking that separates downtown from the mall. Even if it was just one corridor that connected, maybe along the 3rd Street corridor, something that connected one mall entrance over to where downtown begins, it would be an improvement for people that want to experience the mall and downtown in the same trip. The idea of incremental development, so this whole site can't possibly be developed all at the same time. So slowly developing just like downtown did over time. The idea of adding residential uses on the mall property or adding mixed use whenever you're redeveloping the parking lots came into play. Transforming this sort of suburban image of this by adding more windows on the outside of the mall, making it look more like a building rather than sort of a big box fortress like people are typically sort of moving away from with their shopping preferences. There is also a lot of discussion about how to repurpose anchor stores that were vacant. We heard from the mall management that they've had some success with temporary exhibitions and events in those, so that's a great example of how to keep getting some economic activity out of those spaces, even though department stores don't have a great future in store for them probably in shopping malls like this. So some ideas students had, maybe this is an ideal space for a grocery store to be added to downtown, or for civic uses to be relocated to a convenient location like a post office, or to give the library new and additional space for their activities. We had a group that was passionate about the idea of a quality senior center. So something like that could be a civic use for an anchor space that's no longer viable for the mall to market might be something to consider. At the end of the plan document, all of the recommendations I've summarized here are broken into short-term, medium-term, and long-range items. So it sort of sets forth a roadmap immediately. The sort of quick things are this grant program that's already underway with help from the Community Foundation, the downtown plan itself, marketing of vacant properties, underutilized properties downtown. So a lot of these things are already kicked off, really. And also reorganization of Muskogee Main Street to be a truly active organization in the community. And then the sort of big ticket items are something to keep considering down the road and developing funding structures that can help pay for those. So that's something for you guys to continue considering how to fund downtown improvements in the future. Any questions at all?
Questions? I have Doug Walton wishing to speak to this item, so do we want to hear from Doug real quick and then have any other questions?
Shane, before you finish, give us just a snapshot of the Quality Communities, I'm not saying that right, the program in Norman.
Yes, yeah. So
give us just a sentence or two about that.
Yeah, the placemaking conference.
Placemaking, yes. I'm sorry.
Which I believe Mayor Coburn attended and maybe a few other folks as well. It's a biennial event that we host in Norman. It's an initiative of President Boren and Mrs. Boren who started our institute and thought it was important to share expert knowledge from around the world with citizens in Oklahoma totally for free. So every other year we have about 800 to 1,000 people come to our Norman campus, and we set up about 8 or 10 speakers that we fly in from all over the world that we think are the best on parking, placemaking, making our places more healthy and economically viable, and have them speak to their successes. I think a highlight this year was Mayor Brainerd from Carmel, Indiana, who really told the story of how he transformed his town, which is just about an hour outside of Indianapolis. It was a really amazing story. All of the videos from all of our conferences in the past are totally available on our website, and including, we just published all the ones from this year's conference on there, so you can share them with anyone who
It'll add some validity. I came home and talked about the roundabouts, and I think people were a little skeptical. They're going, what?
Sure.
So it'll add to do that.
Great.
Doug, I think you've addressed this committee before. Name and address, please, sir.
Sure. Doug Walton, 2702 Gibson Street, Muskogee. I won't take very long, really. Just to, again, say how much we appreciate Shane and Sean and the team's efforts. Was able to attend, I think, most all of the steering committee meetings and the other activities that they coordinated and put tons and tons and tons of hours into it. And I don't know if you guys realize how fortunate we are to have had them here. I'm sure you do. It was really invaluable. And this plan, if you've had a chance to look at it, is just packed full of ideas. If we can implement just a fraction of them, we'll be doing wonderful, wonderful things that we're already on the path of. And, you know, really, there's a lot of details, and there's things that some people will get hung up on that they may not think are, you know, right for us right now. And approving this does not mean that we can't change or that we don't have to do everything in it. And things that we'll do will come through this group when we choose to do them. But I encourage your approval of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. No, since no one has signed up to speak to this issue, we're going to close the public hearing. Any other discussions or questions for Shane and
I
Gary?
would just like to say I appreciate, Shane, you coming this evening and speaking toward it, being a part of the process. It was phenomenal. I guess the part that I didn't expect was learning so much about my community, because they brought so many. You know me, I'm a statistics and data guy, but they brought in statistics and data that revealed so much about our community, and brought it in a visual format. And I'm a visual learner, and graphs and charts and dot metrics. And the thing is, we're using that in Bridges Out of Poverty and in other areas of our community. You know, it was for downtown Muskogee development, and we're using it in that area, but it's also being used in other areas, and I'm still pulling that up. I'm using it in Muskogee Public Schools. So not only was this data used in that area, but it opened me up to all the other resources of data. So what a wonderful eye-opening experience this whole deal was. And then it was unfortunate that when the presentation was, we had that deluge event, but it was recorded by the Muskogee High School, and it was aired, and I appreciate everything that was done. But it is, Doug really summed it up, it is a lot of stuff there, but if we can implement just pieces of that, and what's so exciting, pieces are already being implemented in our community. And just ideas are being taken from that. So it's not just a report going up on a shelf. We're seeing pieces of that already being implemented in our community because it opened our eyes in our community and it implemented thoughts. And thank you, Shane. Thank you, OU Institute of Quality Communities. Thank you for the opportunity that we have in Muskogee because of what you brought to our community. Thank you very much.
Any other comments, discussions? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other thoughts? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item number 3.
Consider approval award the lowest and best bids for chemicals for use in the treatment of our water as follows. Chlorine, aluminum, polymer coagulant, and caustic soda to Brentag Southwest. Fluorosilicic acid to Mosaic Fishhawk. Polyphosphate to Hawkins Inc. Sodium chloride to Evoqua Technologies, and ferric chloride to Brainerd Chemical Company.
Mr. Riley.
Mr. Chairman, committee, this is our annual bids for chemicals for our water treatment. The ferric chloride is the one area where we're taking a slightly higher bid just for the convenience of getting the product. And if you have any questions, we recommend approval, and Stephen Morton is here to answer any questions.
Price go up, down versus last year, budget-wise?
Overall, the prices have all gone down except for ferric chloride. It was slightly, it's like 1/4 of 1 cent higher than the bid from last year. But as Mr. Riley said, this is all due to convenience. The supplier is located out of Tulsa, so if we need supply delivered the next day, that would be possible versus waiting a full week from somebody out of state.
Okay. But basically, the bids were a little bit lower than.
Little bit lower, yes.
But nothing went up.
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
All I know is there's a lot of chemicals in there, and I'm thinking, man, I got to drink that.
He filters them all out with the ferric chloride, okay?
Yeah, but I would hate for you to drink it if it wasn't in there.
Thank you very much.
That's even scarier. No.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other
for
questions?
approval?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 4.
Consider approval of the appointment of David P. Weston to the War Memorial Trust Authority to serve a 3-year term beginning August 1, 2017, and ending on July 31, 2020, or take other necessary action.
Mayor Coburn.
This is my recommendation. I do not actually know David personally, but he was highly recommended for this opportunity on War Memorial Trust Authority. He does not live in the city of Muskogee, and so therefore his service would not be a voting member, as I understand it. Mr. Tucker, is that correct?
No, he would be a voting member. The
Okay.
trust provides that no more than 3 members can live outside of the community, so he will serve one of those 3 roles. There are 2 other members who are living outside of the community, so this would be the 3rd and final.
Okay. I had asked for that verification to be sure that wasn't an issue and that we weren't setting a precedence with that. And I move for his approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Item number 5.
Consider approval of receiving donated funds for the month of May 2017 in the amount of $1,185.94 and June 2017 in the amount of $2,393 for a total of $3,578.94 for the city's animal shelter sponsorship program as per the attached list, or take necessary action.
Chief Eskridge.
Chairman, Council, we had 2 really good months in which we received some donations for the total of $3,578.94 in May it was $1,185.94, and in June it was $23.93. So we had 2 really good months to add to our spay and adoption program, spay and neuter. So I would request that we receive these funds.
Thank you, Chief.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Ivory Van. Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Seeing no further business, we are adjourned.
We will now call to order the special call meeting of the Muskogee City Council. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Janie Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson.
Here.
Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivory Van. Derek Reed.
Here.
Item number 1.
Consider approval to accept the Federal Aviation Administration grant offer for Airport Improvement Program, project number 3-40-0062-012-2017 at Davis Field in Muskogee, Oklahoma, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Mike Stewart.
Yeah, this is, the grant has come through from the Federal Aviation Administration to proceed with the improvements out at Davis Field. That's to rehabilitate runway 1331, the main aircraft parking apron, and taxiway B. What you have before you is the grant from the Federal Aviation Administration, which is the federal part of the amount that we need to pay for this project. It's a $300,000 grant. We still have a sponsor share and an OAC part that will pay for the entire project. The entire project is around $713,000. If you'll remember, that bid came before you. It's been accepted. We've just simply been waiting on the grant. So what we're asking today is for approval to accept the grant from the Federal Aviation Administration, and I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Move the approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Are there comments or questions? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 2.
Consider approval of an amendment to the contract between Traffic Engineering Consultants Incorporated and the city providing professional traffic engineering services, or take other necessary action.
Mr. Riley.
Mayor and Council, this is an amendment to Traffic Engineering Consultants contract on Main Street where we're doing a road diet. And this is for a study needed to go to ODOT to prove that our road diet will work through the intersections out until 2045, as they're asking for a 30-year life of the traffic analysis.
Okay.
And we recommend approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there a question or comment?
Is this a budgeted item?
Yeah, it's part of the contract for the,
Okay.
the
Thank you.
design of the whole project.
And I would like to say, since we kind of went to this traffic engineering consultant, Mike Stewart educated me on this a few times, and it seems to be doing a real good job for us. So we appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
A motion and a second. Other question or comments? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall.
Yes.
Mayor Coburn.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 3 and 3, 4, 5, and 6 will all be executive session items, so we'll need to look at the possibility of executive session.
Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss the lawsuit styled City of Muskogee versus Catherine Phillips in the District Court for Muskogee County, Oklahoma, case CV 071730, and Catherine Phillips versus City of Muskogee in the District Court for Muskogee County, Oklahoma, CJ 2017-00213, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. Pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. Pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session. Pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, consider convening an executive session to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge Number 95, and if necessary, take appropriate action in open session.
Want to entertain a motion regarding executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion? Roll call.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Yes.
Janie Boydston.
Yes.
Patrick Kale.
Yes.
Marlon Coleman.
Yes.
Wayne Johnson.
Yes.
Derek Reed.
Yes.
Dan Hall. Mayor Coburn.
Yes. Motion carries. We'll now consider ourselves in executive session. I just didn't need that finger. Now reconvene from executive session. Roll call.
Mayor Bob Coburn.
Here.
Deputy Mayor James Scully.
Here.
Dan Hall.
Here.
Marlon Coleman.
Here.
Jenny Boydston.
Here.
Wayne Johnson. Patrick Kale.
Here.
Ivor Van. Derek Reed.
Here.
Mr. Tucker.
Item number 3, pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25, Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss the lawsuit styled City of Muskogee versus Catherine Phillips et al. In the District Court for Muskogee County, case number CV 07-1730, and Catherine Phillips et al. Versus City of Muskogee, also in Muskogee County District Court, case number CJ 2017-213. After being fully briefed on the status of that litigation, no action is necessary at this time. Item number 4, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the City Council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local Number 2465. After receiving a briefing of the ongoing negotiations for the current fiscal year, no action is necessary at this time. Item number 5, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the Council did convene an executive session to discuss negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters, Local Number 57. Again, the Council was briefed on the status of those ongoing negotiations for a collective bargaining agreement for this fiscal year. At this time, no action is necessary. Item number 6, pursuant to Section 307B2, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, the Council convened an executive session as well to discuss negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge Number 95. Again, being briefed on the status of ongoing negotiations for a fiscal year 2018 collective bargaining agreement, no action is necessary at this time. Mayor.
That concludes our agenda and our meeting. Thank you.